Everyone, I bet a lot of you guys are out there looking for your first deal. You might be thinking, hey, I got to get my first deal, right? I want to be an investor, but a lot of you don't realize you've already done your first deal. How many of you guys own your primary residence? Because the strategy I'm going to show you today, if you've owned your primary more than 5 years, you are going to really love this. And you're going to really love this if you refinanced your primary a couple, what we'll call it 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago when rates were low, right? So I see a lot of people who've owned it. The longer you've owned your house, you typically build what? You build equity, right? So I'm going to show you guys how you could tap into that today and leverage it. And if some of you who already are doing this, I want to give you guys a couple more tips that you probably did not realize. But I want to hound that again, because maybe you're trying to look and find your first deal, but if you own your primary residence, you can go get what's called a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, or do a cash out refi. And now you can leverage that to go be much more. This is going to allow you to be, it's going to expedite your process, because now you're going to be liquid, right? You're going to be liquid to go buy another deal, maybe to go be a lender. You could go be a gator lender or invest on somebody else's deal. Or maybe you can go to the bank and get a loan and then use your HELOC money as a down payment. And maybe you need it to fund your rehab, but that money you have in your primary, guys, this is a powerful, powerful way to grow in real estate. Okay. So let me show you guys mine. And this is going to be, maybe I'll blow your minds from the start. Let me share this screen, because I think there's a lot of people that are probably in my same boat, because I talk to people all the time who are like, Casey, I want to buy more deals. I want to do more fix and flips. I want to invest more. I don't know where I get the capital. I don't know where to start. Like, I got to go use a hard money lender and I got to pay 15% and 3 points. Like, how do you make deals work? Well, this is how. I think a lot of you guys, you're going to have a light bulb moment in just a second. So this is one of my houses. I bought this in 2020 because it was right after COVID. Okay. This is actually just down the street from where I live right now. I bought this house in 2020 and I bought it for $433,000 in Houston, right? It did not look like this. That is what this thing used to look like when I bought it for $433,000, all right? It had this weird concrete entryway, right? This was a carport, right? And there was a garage in the back, okay? But when we renovated this thing, check it out, we redid this entryway. We actually converted the carport into a garage. We added these windows. That back garage, we added a living space and I added a bedroom. But anyway, I spent probably $50,000 to $60,000 on this thing, and I've been renting it out ever since. Initially, my plan was to live in this. So I just moved back to Houston and I didn't have a primary residence. And I'm like, all right, this is a house, because I was renting my current house. I'm like, I want to move into this one. So we got it all fixed up. I went and got a loan at Wells Fargo for 2.75%, right? So this house, my loan amount is like roughly $390,000 on this thing at 2.75%. So my rate is phenomenal. My payment is low, okay? But now this was 2020. Today, if I listed this on the market, this house would sell. I mean, you see the Zillow estimate. I think it's more like in this neighborhood, which there's no inventory and it's great schools. It's probably 800 to 900, potentially pushing $1 million. Okay. Now think about the equity. If you're doing the math here, let's say it's worth $1 million just for round numbers, and I owe 400K, right? I've locked 600,000 of equity in there, right? Which is awesome. But what am I going to do with that, right? Especially if I want to grow and I want to go invest and buy more deals. I'm sitting on all this equity. So some of you guys might think, all right, you should just sell that, Casey, liquidate that, take that 600,000, or say it's 500,000 by the time you get it moved and drop price and pay commissions. Let's say I cleared 500,000, take that money and go reinvest it in real estate. But what if we could actually keep the asset, not go pay the capital gains or any taxes? Because if you sell a house, it depends if it's your primary, right? But even your primary is capped at 250,000, depending if you're married or filing together. I'm probably going in the weeds a little bit here, too much, guys. But there's a capital gains part of this too, to where if your house is appreciated a lot and you sell it, right, you're going to pay capital gains, okay? But if I did all that, I'm going to pay capital gains and I'm going to lose the asset and I'm going to lose that amazing rate, okay? I don't want to do that. So what I do is I go get a HELOC, right? I go to a bank, right? I don't want to, but the key is, guys, I don't want to touch that Wells Fargo 2.75% loan. So I cannot go do a cash out refi. A cash out refi, they might give me a loan to like maybe 75% of the value. So let's say it's worth $1 million. Maybe I get a $750,000 loan and I could pull out some cash that way. But guess what rate I'm going to be borrowing at? Right now, I'm going to be at, I mean, I probably even couldn't get approved because now I'm an entrepreneur and I don't show as much income as I used to. I mean, I'd be borrowing at like 6 to 7% best case. So I don't want to do that. But what I can do is I can go get a HELOC, right? Now, depending on what state you live in, you could potentially go to a bank and do this. So your first step, I want everybody to hear this. If you've got a house, how many of you guys are in a situation where you've got a house with some equity, but you've got a great rate and you don't want to compromise that rate? Is there anybody in that situation? So here's what you do, right? Step one, go talk to a local bank or credit union and see if they will take a HELOC in second position behind your current bank. Right now, I will say this, it is difficult to find banks that will want to go in second position behind a different bank. Your best bet is to go to that, like in a perfect scenario, you finance this with a local bank, your original purchase. If you go to that same bank, a lot of times they'll go do a second loan. And again, it needs to be a second because you don't want to mess with the first. The first is locked in at a rate. We can't mess with that. So you go get a second position HELOC to unlock some of that equity. Okay. So that's step one. Try to do it with the local bank or credit union. Because if you do it there, if you get a HELOC, sometimes they have like a 1% interest rate for like a year and then it goes up and it's variable. Okay. But I'm not sure what that was a couple years ago. It's probably gone up. But either way, you're going to get bank interest rates if you do that way. Okay. But there's probably a lot of people thinking, or if you go try this, the bank's going to be like, no, we're not going in second. We would love to refinance you and give you a loan at 7% and we'll give you 75%. They'll do that, but you don't want to do that, right? You don't want to lose that low interest rate. So what do? What's an idea if the bank won't do it, but you still want to tap into that equity? A PML. So guys, this is what I did, right? That house is in Texas, right? I don't have a way to me to go get a second loan through a bank, right? It's not possible. So what I do is I went to my private money lenders and I'm like, hey, here's an asset. That one's actually a rental for me now. It's a furnished medium-term rental. It makes like right now the tenant's paying $6,500 a month and my mortgage is about $3,500. So I'm making almost like $3,000 of cash flow. So I go to my PML and I get it all ready. I package it up for them just like I would for a bank. I'm like, hey, here's my loan amount at $390,000. Here's my payment. Here is my lease for people who are renting it out. Like they can see the cash flow. They can see the equity, right? And I say, hey, would you give me a loan? Would you give me a 12% loan for, I think I did on this one, $250,000. And that PML's like, yeah, I'll do that. Look at all the cushion. Because if you think about your PML, let's call it I owe 400 plus 250, we're at 650 total. But if the house is worth 900, like that's a big cushion, right? And I also have enough cash flow to pay him his 12%. I've got PMLs that I could help recommend to you guys. If you're interested, email me at casey@YOHouses. If you've got the situation, yeah, absolutely reach out. A lot of you might run into a barrier, into a wall when you go talk to a lender, because your first response is going to be like, I don't want to be in second position, right? Not every lender is comfortable with this. But when you go meet the right one and you present it the right way, where I'm like, I mean, doesn't that seem like a no-brainer to you guys on a house that has all that equity and it's making cash flow? Like if you guys have that extra money and you could make 12% and it was protected that way, would you not do it? So it's all in how you present it and you got to find the right person. But there are going to be some banks that doesn't fit into their little box, right? Not going to fit in their box. So they're not going to do it. But there are PMLs out there that will do it. And if you need to find one, absolutely reach out and I'll help you find one. Does everybody know the difference between a home equity line of credit and a term loan? First position HELOC would be better. Yep. Credit is revolving. Loan is just that. HELOC is like a credit card. Okay. So yeah, bunch of good stuff here. So here's the big difference I want to share with you guys. All right. I absolutely love HELOCs. Okay. Because you only pay money on the money that you're borrowing. Okay. If it's free and clear in an investment property, my thought is you have nothing to lose. I mean, yeah, really nothing to lose. If you go get a HELOC, you don't have to use it, but go get 75, or maybe they'll give you 70%, maybe up to 80% of the value of the property. They'll actually go up to 90 in some states if it's your primary. All right. But go get that money accessible, because now you are liquid. You are now a true cash buyer, or you could go lend that money to other people, but you don't have to use it, right? You can be selective. Go pick the right deals, make sure you can underwrite them, make sure you have the right partner, make sure you've got a good deal, okay? But if you don't use it, that's okay, right? You only pay interest on what you use. Now, on the flip side, if we were going to do a cash out refi, you're gonna get all that cash out. So that my same house that's worth $1 million, if I go do a cash out refi, I get back $750,000. So actually I'd have to pay off my first loan. So I would get minus 400, that'd be 350,000. I'd have 350,000 that if I don't use and get a return on, like I'm paying interest. I'm paying whatever, 6 or 7%. Or if I borrow it from an investor, a PML, I'm paying interest on it, okay? But if you go get a HELOC, you're only paying interest on what you have, or what you're actually deploying. You guys catch that subtle difference? That's a huge game changer. And it allows you to be liquid and you to be able to go do more deals. Guys, this is a game changer no one talks about. And I learned it years ago. And it is such a cool strategy, and you will create a lot more wealth, okay? So when you go buy your next rental property, let's say you're buying, let's use easier math, low numbers. Let's say you buy your house for 100,000, all right? Your purchase price is 100K, all right? So the bank will give you a loan, whether it's a term loan or a HELOC. Let's say they'll go to 75%. So they're gonna let you borrow 75,000, okay? So you have two options. You can go get the term loan of 75K, right? And then you're going to pay that every month and it's going to be amortized. But if you overpay it, it's locked in. You can't touch it. The only way you could touch it is if you refinance. Now, let's say on the flip side, you go get a home equity line of credit on that purchase. Because I bet there's a lot of people out there that don't understand, and I didn't until somebody told me, that you can go to that same bank and be like, I don't want a term loan. I want a line of credit. Okay. So they're going to give you 75,000 in a loan as a line of credit. So now every month when my tenant pays me, I got enough to pay off my HELOC, which again, it's actually a lower payment because it's not amortized. So let's say my HELOC payment is $500. Well, let's say I'm getting $1,000 a month from the tenant, and I'm ignoring all the expenses for now. Okay. So I have $1,000 coming in. I'm going to pay every month and put $1,000 into that HELOC. So after a year, I've now paid this thing down by, I guess if it was the interest was 500, it'd be I was paying down an extra 500 of cash flow. So 500 times 12, $6,000. So at the end of the year, I've paid down my HELOC by $6,000. So now instead of owing 75, I owe 69. Okay. So let's say I keep doing this, but then let's say that now I have an opportunity pop up where Jen comes to me or Chris comes to me like, hey, I need a private money lender for $20,000 and I'm willing to pay 15%. Well, guess what? You could now go pull that 6,000 that you've been basically paying down every year. You pull it out, you go lend it to Jen or Chris at 15%, and you're borrowing it at like 6 or 7 or 8%. And now you're making that spread. You see how that works? But if you did a term loan, you're not getting access to that money unless you go refinance and do the whole thing again. Just to wrap this up, I want to give you guys 3 sort of tips with these HELOCs that you guys can leverage. All right. One of them I already talked about. When it comes to HELOCs, you're going to save in taxes, because if you have a property that's appreciated and you bought it 3 or 4 years ago, now the value's up. If you go sell that and liquidate it, that's a taxable event. Depending on whether you own the property and you as a primary or there's some other IRS rules, you could be subject to capital gains tax. When you go do a HELOC or even a cash out refi for that matter, that is not taxed. That is a huge bonus, right? Guys, I'm looking at like big multifamilies I own that I've forced a bunch of appreciation, but I want to be able to get that money back. Like if I go to sell that thing and realize all my profit, then I get taxed. But on the flip side, if I just go do a refinance, I get my money back. I don't pay the taxes. I continue to hold the asset, and it's a really good tax strategy. So that's number 1. Okay. Number 2 is the speed at which you can invest. Right now, because you have that cash liquid, now you are ready to jump on the good deals. Because I can tell you there are a ton of situations you guys are going to find. And if you haven't seen it yet, you will, right? When there's a good deal, a lot of times timing is everything. And if you got to go to a bank and get an appraisal and go through that 30-day process, you're not going to be competitive. There are going to be deals that they need cash. And this is how you can make more money as a gator, make more money as a lender. If people need the money fast, like I work with a ton of guys in sub 2, like that's how they make their money, is they're like, I can underwrite and I can do deals fast and I'm liquid. Okay. So doing these HELOCs, it allows you to be liquid and gives you way more opportunity, whether you want to invest in somebody else's deals or find your own. Okay. Now, the third one is, I bet there's a lot of people out there that maybe this happens to everybody, guys, don't be ashamed, that have credit card debt or maybe bad car debt or just in general debt at high interest rates. Okay. I want to share a story of this one. This is actually somebody I worked with. I wanted to get her text message to share this, but we were talking about her kind of financial situation and how she eventually wanted to buy rental properties. She's like, well, Casey, my credit isn't any good, right? Like my credit is like, she's like, my credit's 680. I'm like, well, why is it 680? Do you have like some credit cards? And we dug in and I found out she had some high interest credit cards and some high balances. Okay. So last point is, she reached out and she's like, what do I do? My credit's not good. I want to eventually be buying rental properties. And I bet there's people on this call live today, or people are going to watch this recording and be like, I want to get started, but my credit's not where it should be. But what if you have equity in a house, right? So what I told her, I'm like, hey, I'll just use a generic name. I'm like, hey, Samantha, you have equity in your house. Why don't you go to the bank and get a HELOC or a cash out refi, pull some money out of that property and go pay off those credit cards. And now not only your credit's going to improve, you're going to pay less of an interest rate, right? And now you're going to be able to potentially use some of the surplus funds to go invest in real estate. And the crazy thing was, I think she didn't realize, the Samantha at the time, she didn't realize that a bank will still lend to you if you have equity in a house, even if your credit's not quite where it is. The banks love that, right? That's how they do debt consolidation. It's really they're going and taking a good asset and they're putting leverage on it. So I'm going to read her text. She reached out to me. She goes, Casey, my credit went from 680 to 810 after my refi. I'm freaking out. I was freaking out for months about it tanking. Thank you so much for your advice, right? Guys, this is something everybody could do. If you have high interest credit card debt, go get a HELOC, pay it down. And ideally you've got enough equity that now you've got some extra cash to go start investing in real estate. Because now your credit's improved. Now the bank is going to lend to you on future deals, right? You've also, the other thing I didn't highlight is just how a high interest credit card debt can crater you and the interest rates, right? Now she's got the new debt she took out on her HELOC is probably, she just did it. So it's probably 7%. You guys see the value of that? So hopefully, I know there's a ton of things we've shown you guys today, and I know everyone's at a different level, but I wanted to show each one of you guys, whether you're really growing or building their portfolio and wanting to have asset protection, he can use HELOCs to go pay off his primary residence and play it a little bit safer. Or you could be on the flip side, you could be on the other end of the spectrum where you've got bad credit because you've got high credit card debt. You could help get out of that because of assets you own, okay? So to go full circle in this, I want you guys to think about assets that you own that might have equity and how you could leverage those to grow and achieve your goals. Because I do my 2-day workshop. We're actually going to do our first one in July. We've been talking about it for a while, but that's going to be one of the first things I hit on. And one of the first ways for people to become financially free is look at your current assets. If you have properties with equity, that's how you grow, right? And it's not for everybody, right? If you're the Dave Ramsey type and you're like, I want to pay cash for everything, you're not going to grow and you're not going to achieve financial freedom as fast. But if you want to use leverage and use your current assets and go buy better assets, that's how you create financial freedom. We've been talking about how to use PMLs today a lot, but again, step one, as I said, go to a small bank or a credit union. They are your first option. They are going to have the best rates, right? But secondly, go talk to a private money lender, right? Because I bet there are a lot of people, back to my point on my house where I showed you guys that it's worth like 900 to $1 million now and I owe 400. I bet there's a lot of people who thought like me and they're like, oh man, I've got all that equity, but I cannot get rid of that 2.75% rate. Well, I showed you guys how. You've got to go find a PML. It could be done, and then you can keep growing, okay? Now, if you guys need help finding PMLs, as I mentioned, reach out and I'll help you out. Casey at WYO Houses. We're going to be going into 0% interest credit cards. I'm going to talk about how you can leverage those to grow. All right. That's probably what I would start if I only had 5 to 10,000 and I didn't own a property. I would try to leverage my credit. I mean, hopefully you at least have a decent credit score. If not, this one's not going to work for you. But if you have decent credit, that's another great way. And I'm going to actually be teasing that because I'm going to be launching my first fractional offering. And through my fractional offering, I'm going to let everyone will be a part owner of my company that's going to be fixing and flipping and doing buy and holds. They're going to be able to actually go get 0% interest credit cards through Chase, through the business together. And that's going to be able to help them invest more money, which is a really, really cool strategy.